Hello and welcome to the program UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about UFO reports from Nevada. That's correct, UFO reports from Nevada. Now, I found these over at Nuforc, nuforc.org, nuforc.org. As always, a great place to find these things. This first sighting happened May 17th, 2026, 9:20 p.m. local time, it says. They're in Reno, Nevada. Location details: the craft was on the Reno-facing side of Peavine Mountain. Says the shape was oval, color was off-white cream, and the estimated size was massive. Now, I did see a picture of this. It's pretty cool. At least the size of 2 Walmart buildings, viewed from land. Direction from the viewer northwest to north from my location. An angle of elevation at 45 degrees heading north. Closest distance a couple miles, speed unknown but fairly slow. Characteristics changed color. A giant oval-shaped cream-colored craft that was perfectly smooth without any seams or rivets slowly moved over Peavine Mountain. I left my house through the back gate to go to the store at about 9:20 p.m. when I noticed a giant hovering craft at least 100 feet off the ground, but still beneath the peak of Peavine Mountain. I could see the peak above the top of the craft. The craft was oval, almost egg-shaped, and cream-colored with a flat, matte finish. It illuminated the ground around and beneath itself, but it did not appear to have any visible lights. It moved side to side slowly but very smoothly as it traveled up the side of the mountain and eventually over the peak to the other side of Peavine Mountain, where I lost sight of it. As soon as I saw it, I tried to get my phone out of my backpack to take a picture, but I was unable to get a photo until the craft was already about 3/4 of the way over the mountain and disappearing on the other side. The craft made no sound and moved with very fluid motions. The entire incident lasted approximately 3 to 5 minutes. Like I said, there's a picture of this thing on the side. It's this massive light there just kind of hovering above the mountain. I mean, it's very well defined, not like it's just a blurb or something. It's really neat. This next sighting happened April 29th, 2026 at 3:58 p.m. It says duration 5 minutes, observers 1, military. Location Reno, Nevada. Location details: I was at a dog run at the specified address, and I don't see an address here. Shape sphere, color silver, estimated size possibly the size of an SUV or truck, though uncertain. Viewed from land. Direction from viewer east-southeast to southeast. Angle of elevation 45 degrees. Heading initially almost due west, eventually changed to south. Closest distance 2 to 4 miles. Estimated speed uncertain but not fast moving. A silver circular spherical object was flying east to west in the sky in the vicinity of Reno Airport. The object then began rising until it disappeared from sight. The silver circular spherical object initially appeared to originate from Reno Airport airspace or somewhere nearby. It flew almost directly west with no observable change in elevation. The object moved relatively slow and seemed to stop and start intermittently. When the object was roughly southeast of my position, it stopped moving west and began increasing in elevation while drifting slightly south. As it rose, the relative size of the object decreased. It also appeared to meander slightly during its movement, almost as if it were checking out clouds. By meander, I mean the object displayed irregular movement patterns, although its overall direction matched what was described above. It would unpredictably slow down and speed up, start moving again, or stop altogether. Its exact altitude was unknown, but it eventually climbed until it was no longer visible. That's pretty wild. Here's one, January 27th, 2026. It says 11:30 p.m. local time, reported January 28th at 11:50 a.m. Pacific time. Duration 5 minutes, observers 1. Location Coyote Springs, Nevada. Location details: a faint, unmarked Jeep trail heading west off Highway 93, approximately 9 miles north of Love's gas station. Shape circle. color, red lights, estimated size approximately 30 feet in circumference. One object appeared smaller viewed from land. Angle of elevation 45 degrees, heading stationary, closest distance approximately 2,000 feet. Estimated speed stationary, characteristics lights on object. Domed-shaped objects with red lights were parked in the open desert. I know the roads out here well because I frequently camp in these desert areas in my vehicle. I was looking for a place to sleep for the night on a Jeep trail off Highway 93 about 30 miles north of Las Vegas in a remote area. As I was driving down the Jeep trail, I came upon two dome-shaped objects with bright red lights on them. One dome appeared larger than the other. I had my high beams on, but I did not see any light reflections that would suggest parked vehicles nearby. At first, I assumed they were just people camping, so I stopped my approach, turned around, and parked about a half a mile away from the sighting on the same Jeep trail. The next morning, as I usually do, I went for a jog and ran back out to the location. There was no trace of anyone having been there. There's only one way into this desert area, and the road dead ends near the mountains. If whoever was there had parked up and left during the night, they would have had to drive past me to get back to the highway, and I would have heard them leaving. Now I regret not approaching the domes. I was probably within 2,000 feet or less, and taking video. At that time, I did not want to be rude because I assumed they were simply campers who had erected large tents for the night. Still, it seemed very unusual that someone would go through the trouble of setting up large dome-like tents in such a remote location. In more than 20 years of traveling and camping in this area, I have never seen anyone else parked out there. Now that's something. 20 years and the first time I've ever seen anybody else parked out there. Yeah, maybe this time these guys were visiting from a little further away than Las Vegas. This sighting says happened September 6, 2025 at 8:55 p.m. local time. Approximately 15 seconds for the length of it. Number observers 1. Location Las Vegas, Nevada. Shape light, color white. Estimated size the object was a very faint point of light. Direction from viewer northward, northwest. Angle of elevation 45 degrees. Initially east then west. Height of a satellite. Much faster than typical satellites. Initial flashes, fast speed, and U-turn. Well, if it's doing a U-turn, it doesn't sound like a satellite to me. Observer background. I'm a skywatcher who frequently observes satellites. The object initially appeared similar to a faint satellite in brightness and motion, but its speed and maneuvering were anomalous and inconsistent with satellites. Description of the object and event. The object, initially heading east, had appeared as a very faint point of light comparable in brightness to a dim satellite, barely visible to the naked eye under a somewhat dark sky conditions. It emitted a steady, non-twinkling light, consistent with a high-altitude object in space. I was able to track it clearly with my eyes, ruling out any optical illusion or atmospheric distortion. The sequence of events was as follows. Initial flashes. The sighting began with two fast, bright flashes of light, similar to flashes I have previously observed from satellites, spaced approximately 3 seconds apart. Each flash lasted less than 1 second. The flashes appeared to originate from the object and briefly increased its visibility. Straight line motion. Following the second flash, the object moved in a straight line for about 2 seconds at approximately the speed of a normal satellite, covering a significant angular distance across the sky. It then accelerated dramatically, moving much faster than typical satellites. The object made a wide, smooth, but rapid U-turn toward the south, implying extreme acceleration that would be impossible for conventional satellites or spacecraft. I think all the satellites that I've ever seen were traveling pretty much west to east, and this thing's traveling, it sounds like it must have been out of the southeast toward the northwest, and then it does a U-turn. About 2 seconds after completing the U-turn and heading west, the object suddenly disappeared from view like a light being switched off, rather than gradually fading. The entire event appeared to occur at an altitude consistent with satellites. Based on the steady, non-twinkling light, it did not resemble a drone, aircraft, or meteor or satellite. Meteors do not make U-turns. Drones are typically closer and produce audible sounds or visible navigation lights. And satellites follow predictable linear paths without sharp maneuvers. I ruled out optical illusions because I was able to steadily track the object with my eyes through the event. Under additional notes, it says, no sound or other effects. The object was completely silent, with no associated sounds, trails, or smoke. Environmental context. The sky was clear, with stars visible and a full moon present. No aircraft or other object were observed in the vicinity. The sighting occurred during the evening, but the object appeared high enough to be in space. Why the event was anomalous. Now, as someone who regularly observes satellites, I initially observed the object was one due to its faint, steady light. However, its speed far exceeded the typical orbital velocities, and its abrupt U-turn, requiring immense acceleration beyond any known technology, did not match any conventional object. No photos or videos. No recording was taken because the event was brief and unexpected. This report is submitted for documentation and potential investigation without speculation regarding the object's origin. I am available for a follow-up questions if needed, but prefer to remain anonymous. Yeah, that's wild. Here's one, May 25th, 2024, 10:03 a.m. local time, duration 30 seconds, observers 1, location Henderson, Nevada. Shape light, whitish yellow, viewed from aircraft, angle of elevation 70 degrees, heading north. Characteristics, lights on object emitted other objects. 2 lights became 3 before vanishing. I was traveling on a commercial flight when I looked out the airplane window and saw 2 lights that transformed into 3. I was traveling from Dallas to Las Vegas on a commercial American Airlines flight. I was traveling alone, and because it was an early flight, I was trying to sleep. The pilot made an announcement encouraging passengers to look out the airplane window to see the Grand Canyon from above. Since I am a foreigner and have never seen the Grand Canyon before, I grabbed my phone and started recording the desert and mountain scenery. I even took a great picture of Hoover Dam. Suddenly, I noticed 2 lights far away above the highest mountains on the horizon. I immediately began recording video with my phone because I knew it was something out of the ordinary. Both lights were moving in a straight line across the mountains, and one of them appeared to duplicate itself before becoming 3 lights. Moments later, all 3 lights vanished in front of me. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, you're trying to see the Grand Canyon and you end up seeing a UFO instead. This one happened on May 16th, 2024 at 10:09 p.m. local time. It says duration 5 to 6 minutes, observers 3, location Gerlach, Nevada. And it says it's at 3,950 feet elevation. Shape triangle, color whitish yellow, size approximately 200 to 300 feet in length, viewed from land, directly overhead, angle of elevation 90 degrees, heading southwest. Closest distance about 2,000 to 5,000 feet above the observers. Approximately the speed of a traditional aircraft. The lights on object emitted other objects, made a sound aircraft nearby. Large triangular object with multiple lights and low frequency hum. My visiting mother and I were having a conversation while standing on the south side of a travel trailer with a limited view to the north. Suddenly we heard a high RPM or high frequency noise quickly dropping almost with a thud-like sound into a low RPM or low frequency hum directly above us. We looked up and saw a large triangle of whitish yellow lights flying almost directly overhead. We thought we could make out a structure connecting the lights, but it was difficult to see clearly against the night sky. It did not sound like a traditional jet or propeller-driven engine. Instead, it produced a low-frequency hum that seemed to come directly from the craft, giving the impression it was flying at a fairly low altitude, perhaps a couple thousand to several thousand feet above us. The lights were arranged in a triangular pattern while overhead, with 1 bright light at the front and 2 nearly equally bright lights at the rear corners. As the craft traveled southwest and moved further away, 2 additional smaller lights at the rear corners became visible. appearing to be positioned directly beneath the two larger rear lights. As the object moved further into the distance, the smaller lower lights appeared further below the larger rear lights due to perspective. The lights never changed color or brightness, except as affected by distance. Neither the large front light nor any of the other lights became obscured by what we believed to be the body of the craft, giving the impression that it might possibly have been multiple aircraft flying in formation. However, no anti-collision lights, red marker lights, or standard red and green aviation lights were observed. The object maintained a straight flight path toward the southwest over Granite Peak, gradually dimming with distance before eventually disappearing behind the mountains. I knew the object would be difficult to photograph with my cell phone, but after calling my girlfriend outside to observe it, I realized it was definitely unlike anything I had previously seen or heard in the sky. I quickly captured 5 photos using my Pixel 8 Pro, 4 standard photos, and 1 night shot image with a 2 to 3 second exposure. Unfortunately, though, not surprisingly, the images do not appear much clearer than most UFO photographs. However, they do provide a general idea of the shape of the structure or formation, which resembles other reported triangle sightings. The pictures were taken approximately 45 to 60 seconds after the object first appeared overhead, when it was about 35 to 40 degrees above the horizon and traveling almost directly away from us. Because of the proximity of Fallon Naval Air Station, I initially assumed the object might have been military aircraft flying in a formation. However, the sound was unlike anything I had previously heard from an aircraft, possibly due to harmonics from multiple aircraft. Combined with the complete absence of collision, position, or marker lights, it appeared unlike anything we had ever seen or heard before in the sky. It sounds like it. These giant triangle sightings, unreal. We'll go ahead and do a couple more here and wrap this up. This is from October 19th, 2023, 3 a.m. local time. Duration approximately 1 hour. Observer 1. Location Las Vegas. It says in flight. Observed from an aircraft at 37,000 feet. Shape star, possible explanation Starlink or racetrack phenomena. Lights on object. 3 high altitude lights moving in random patterns. Okay, that kind of excludes satellites for me, but you know. While operating an airline flight at 37,000 feet, both pilots witnessed 3 lights at a very high altitude moving in unusual patterns. While operating a Boeing 777 flight from Honolulu to Denver at 37,000 feet, both the captain and I observed what appeared to be stars moving at a very high altitude and great distance. We were approximately 50 miles southwest of Las Vegas at about 3 a.m. local time. The lights appeared to be southeast of our position. All 3 lights were observed moving independently in what appeared to be some type of coordinated pattern. The lights were approximately the same size and brightness as the surrounding stars and emitted a steady light with no flashing, unlike the lighting typically observed on aircraft. Each light would move relatively quickly in one direction for about 1 minute, then reverse course and move in another direction. We observed this phenomena for approximately 1 hour. That's something I don't think you see in airplanes, do you? First it's going one direction, then another. This sounds like typical UFO stuff to me. We contacted Los Angeles Center to inquire about possible high-altitude military activity, but they were not aware of any operations in the area. After about 1 hour, 2 of the lights continued northbound until they disappeared from sight. The 3rd light remained visible for approximately 20 additional minutes before heading southwest and disappearing as well. During the course of the observation, our aircraft traveled approximately 500 nautical miles, yet the lights never appeared to move any closer to us. So these things must have really been out there. That is wild. This one happened on April 27th, duration 5 minutes. 2023 is the year on it. Location Las Vegas, Nevada. Color gold, viewed from land, direction from viewer northwest, angle of elevation 45, 6 golden lights flashing red, blue, green, hovering over northwest desert near golf course, Creech Air Force Base. At around 9 p.m., I was driving northwest back toward home with my girlfriend, and I noticed 6 stationary lights in the sky leading out to the desert, and we got up to see it. 6 golden lights, blinking red, blue, and green, very fast, hovering stationary, no movement whatsoever in the sky for several minutes. We watched for a couple minutes until I pulled out my phone and snapped a quick zoom in and out of the UFO. We were seeing them. Then I turned my video off. We continued to watch the lights for another minute or two until all 6 lights at the exact same time went still in the exact same place. These lights made the news the very next morning, and funny enough, a lot of misreporting on the exact location of these lights as to where they were hovering over. Well, interesting. I mean, it's something when you see it and everybody else sees it too. I mean, maybe they misreported the sites, or maybe they were just in multiple different places. This one's from May 17th, 2023. It says approximately 1 minute, observers 2, location Pahrump, Nevada. Traveling northwest on Highway 160, approximately 2 miles south of Pahrump, shaped cross, lights on object. While traveling northeast on Highway 160 toward the town of Pahrump, Nevada, at approximately 1:30 a.m., my girlfriend and I observed what initially appeared to be a highway patrol car or a motorcycle approaching us in the opposite direction at a very high rate of speed, possibly 100 miles per hour or more. The object displayed extremely bright, alternating red and blue, flashing emergency lights. As the lights got closer, I realized there were no headlights on either forward-facing white lights. Instead, there appeared to be a total of 8 flashing red and blue lights arranged in the shape of a cross. As it approached, I could tell it was apparently not a car. I initially thought it might be a motorcycle because it appeared to hover just above the road surface. As our vehicle crossed the distance with the oncoming object, and just before we should have passed it, approximately 100 yards in front of us, the object completely disappeared before our eyes. Nothing passed us. There was no sound and no remaining light source. It was simply gone. I immediately hit the brakes, rolled down the window, and looked to see whether whatever it was could have gone off the road. However, there was a guardrail present, making that impossible. It had simply vanished. I even turned the car around to search for where it could have gone, but there was absolutely nothing there. The lights had been increasingly bright, and then whatever it was disappeared into the thin air. Believing it to be an emergency vehicle, I had already begun to slow down and looking for a safe place to pull over and let it pass. I also noticed there was another car approximately a quarter mile ahead of us that appeared to pass by the object as it came through a sweeping left-hand curve in the road between us. The entire experience reminded me of the opening scene from the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where a UFO is seen traveling down a roadway. The incident was completely inexplicable. There is no way it could have been a drone or any conventional type of vehicle. It simply disappeared right before our eyes. That is something else, man. We got one last one here, and we'll wrap this up. This one happened on March 26, 2021 at 7:15 a.m. local time. It says duration approximately 90 to 120 seconds, so what, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Observers 6, location Luning, Nevada, shaped triangle. Witness claims U.S. military was transporting a UFO in Nevada. On the morning of Friday, March 26, 2021, at approximately 7:15 a.m., I was driving southbound on Highway 95 in Nevada as I approached the town of Luning. I was on a family trip and my young child was riding in the back seat of my car. We had stayed the previous night in a hotel in Hawthorne, Nevada. My child woke up early, so we were on the highway earlier than usual. As we approached the outskirts of Luning, heading south, I noticed a large number of red and blue emergency lights coming northbound toward us. It appeared that law enforcement vehicles were approaching quickly, and because I had my child with me, I began looking for a safe place to pull off the highway. At the intersection of Highway 95 and State Road 361, which leads northeast toward Gabbs, Nevada, I found a wide dirt and gravel shoulder and safely pulled over onto Route 361. Then I turned to my child and said, "Watch, all the police vehicles are about to pass us." At that moment, The first, approximately 8 to 10 unmarked blue Nevada State Trooper vehicles pulled directly beside my driver's side door. I rolled down my window, and the trooper, speaking politely but firmly, stated, "You need to move your vehicle right now, make a U-turn, and park on the other side of the road. That's where they are going." I was surprised and apologized, explaining that with my child in the car, I was trying to find a safe place to park out of the way. The trooper responded, "That's fine, but move your car, make a U-turn right now." I complied and repositioned my vehicle on the opposite shoulder on Route 361 facing west toward Highway 95. At that point, I realized the Nevada State Troopers had completely shut down northbound and southbound traffic on Highway 95 at the junction with Route 361. Two Nevada State Trooper vehicles then parked almost mirror to mirror next to my driver's side door, effectively preventing me from exiting my vehicle. I was surprised by the sheer amount of law enforcement present and their highly coordinated efforts to close the highways. I admit I felt intimidated. At that point, I observed what appeared to be a light green military-style truck carrying armed personnel dressed in camouflage traveling north from Highway 95 onto Route 361. My child excitedly said, "Hey, Dad, Army guys." We could see the vehicle passing between the patrol cars parked beside us. I then observed a large white diesel truck with no markings other than black numbers beneath the doors. The driver appeared to be wearing a tan shirt, though I did not observe a formal uniform. The truck was slowly negotiating the wide turn from Highway 95 onto Route 361 while pulling a flatbed trailer. It was then that the most shocking moment of my life occurred. On the flatbed trailer, tightly covered beneath black tarps, secured with cargo straps, was what I can only describe as a UFO. As I tried to process what I was seeing, my child said, "Look, Dad, a UFO. I can fit in that." I was in total shock. My heart was racing, and all I could say was, "That's what people see. That's a UFO." It was clear to me that it was some type of aerial craft. For a brief moment, I considered grabbing my cell phone to take a photograph. However, I was intimidated by the two Nevada State Troopers parked so close to my vehicle that I could not even step out of the car. Both officers appeared focused on my actions. With my child in the vehicle, I decided not to risk being detained. The white diesel truck and flatbed trailer completed the U-turn and continued northwest on Route 361 toward Gabbs. My observation of the craft lasted about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, as the convoy was moving very slowly and the turn required careful coordination. My best description of the craft is as follows. It appeared dome or saucer shaped in the center with three triangular wing-like extensions. Each triangular section had flattened or blunted ends. Because the black tarps were tightly secured rather than loose, the general shape of the object remained surprisingly visible. I estimated the craft to be approximately 4 to 5 feet tall from the flatbed surface to the top of the central dome. I estimated the wingspan to be between 25 and 30 feet. The edges appeared to extend considerably beyond the width of the trailer. The convoy of the Nevada State Troopers continued escorting the transport vehicle both in front and behind it as the convoy proceeded northeast on Route 361. The final troopers reopened Highway 95. One officer later pulled alongside our vehicle, smiled at my son, waved, and gave a thumbs up gesture, almost as though acknowledging what we had witnessed. I remained speechless, my heart racing and my mind in shock. I considered whether the object could have been a military drone, but if so, it was the biggest drone I've ever seen. I also questioned why there would be such an overwhelming law enforcement and military presence if it were merely a drone. I eventually continued southbound on Highway 95 and stopped at the Looning Rest area approximately 1 mile away. There I encountered several other travelers who had also been stopped by troopers on Highway 95. They too were visibly shocked, and asked whether we had seen the UFO. Everyone agreed we had been in the right place at the right time, though none of us knew who to report the incident to. While using the restroom at the rest stop and still trying to process what had happened, I encountered an older Hispanic man driving a truck with Nevada license plates. He asked whether we'd seen the UFO. I confirmed that we had. He stated that what people report as UFOs are actually military craft, and he claimed they were tested out of the Tonopah test range, southeast of our location. He further stated the scuttlebutt from the contractors is they are moving them to a new underground base outside Gabs. When I asked how he knew this, he explained that he lived outside Tonopah and knew the contractors who worked at the base. That is essentially my story. My child and approximately 6 to 8 other motorists also witnessed the event. Wow. Then it goes on, it says your personal opinion of the witness. After reflecting on the incident for several weeks, I personally do not believe the craft we witnessed was extraterrestrial in origin. Instead, I believe it may have been a craft designed from or inspired by advanced technology and built by the United States military. The small apparent interior size suggested to me that it was either unmanned or designed for a single small occupant, positioned lying down on or seated inside. Unfortunately, due to the tarps, I could not determine the craft's color or the materials from which it was constructed. I now firmly believe that the United States military possesses aircraft unknown to the public, and that if observed, especially at night, many people would report them as UFOs. Strangely, the experience also gave me renewed respect for the U.S. military. Clearly, their aerospace technology appears far more advanced than they publicly acknowledge. The deserts of central Nevada still seem to hold many secrets. That's a wild one. I mean, you don't know. This is the whole thing that people argue about all the time. Is it our stuff? Is it their stuff? Is it our stuff copied from their stuff? I mean, how do you know? It does seem pretty weird that they would actually be hauling an actual UFO down the countryside like that, but maybe they're just at the point that they don't care. Very cool sighting and very nice account that individual shared with the rest of us. Appreciate that very much. Would like to say thank you to the people that I do get some small contributions coming in now and then, and I want to just say, hey, thanks a lot for doing that. It really helps the program. And also, thanks for listening. And if you like the program, don't forget to hit like, follow, subscribe. It doesn't cost a dime. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.